Ciao, creative friends, and yay, it is autumn. I am so excited. This is my first official jewelry video for the new season, and I just love when the seasons change. It's so wonderful. And this is Autumnal Whimsy. I have been playing with a technique that I did with my friends at our summer soiree, and I have been playing with turning that technique into rings with little leaves hanging, little charm, leaves hanging, and I just think they're so cute. I've done a few different ones. I'll show you what they are, but let me back up to the summertime. I have a little group of beading friends, and this was our project. We learned to do this herringbone wrap on memory wire, and we also did it on straight pieces of wire and made pendants, and this was one of the projects. And so if you didn't see this video, I can link it below. It's really easy and really fun. I think it's one of the easiest ways to do the herringbone wrap. We used cane glass, which is a little bit irregular, and I really loved the cube beads, especially if you're newer to this technique, because with a cube bead you have this width or thickness on the side, so it's very easy to lay your wire as you go around to lay it on each side. So I can link this below. But my friend Dale Walker, I know that you see her in the comments all the time because she's very supportive, and she actually started out watching my videos just to support me, and now she is really turning out to be a great jewelry maker, and she's just wonderful. So she loves this. She was the one that suggested we do the herringbone for our get together this past summer, and she decided to turn this into a ring, and I thought it was a fabulous idea. So I was trying to make it as easy as possible. Rings are challenging because of the sizing. So I came up with a bypass ring, and basically you're doing herringbone a little bit wonky. I did a few little wraps here to secure it, and then mostly you're doing the herringbone just on one side. And this is so forgiving. These rings are so forgiving as far as size because it's a bypass ring and it's open, so you can make little adjustments. I have mine perfect, so I'm not going to bother with it, but this was another bead that I used and another type of a little leaf, just little leaves from my stash. And the reason I chose red is because I've already been checking into the jewelry trends for fall 2024, and a pop of red, like a handbag or a piece of jewelry, a scarf, like just a pop of red is going to be a big trend for fall, and I love it because for me, red all over is not great for me, but a little pop of red like in a ring or a piece of jewelry, I just think it's fabulous. The other thing that's going to continue, like bold jewelry has been really on trend for this whole year, but that's going to continue into the fall. So I thought that I would try a little bit bolder version of this ring, and you don't need much. Now, I'm a jewelry toolaholic, so I have pretty much all the tools, but if you don't have a ring mandrel, you can use like a lipstick tube or a nail polish bottle. Find a ring that fits you fairly well, and then use that to find something that it goes around that you can use as a mandrel. But I have my ring mandrel here. You'll need pliers. Always when you're doing any kind of wire working, nylon jaw pliers are really great for that. And so this bead on this ring here is a bead that I brought back from Venice, Italy when I went last year, and I just bead shopped all over Murano and Venezia, and this was one. I have a whole little box of my special beads that I brought back. So this one is a little bit small, and the shop that I found there was going out of business because the owners were retiring, and everything in the shop was 70% off. And I brought home quite a few of these Murano glass. They're just stretch bracelets, and I bought them for the beads knowing that I was going to cut them apart. And so I think today is the day. I'm looking at this little square bead because I can do a little herringbone because of the thickness on the side. And I just think when I put that on my finger, I think it's going to be a little bit bolder and a little bit more of a statement ring. So let me cut this little bracelet apart and collect up all the beads. Let's see, this is, I'm gonna go for this one right here. I bought this beautiful raspberry bracelet at this shop, and I bought this red one and a blue one and I think a fourth one. But anyway, I bought them specifically to cut apart, and so still have another cube bead, and I really do, like, I loved these oval beads on this bracelet, but to me, the Murano glass, this hand-blown Italian glass, just deserves a little bit better than a stretch bracelet, so that's going to be another project. I'll set that aside, but I have this little guy, and I can see already that that's going to be a pretty perfect size. So the other thing that I am using is a really small piece. This is like 4 inches. Honestly, I didn't measure. This is like 4 inches of 18 gauge wire, and you know, you don't have, you're going to waste a little bit, you're going to cut a little bit away, but it's not wasted because it's a working wire and it will keep you from struggling. And for me, 18 gauge wire is a little rough on my hands. So I have that. And then for the herringbone wrap, I have 24 gauge wire for this little part that's going to get wrapped. You could even use 26 if you have it. And honestly, you know, if you're adept at it, if you have strength in your hands, you can even use 22 or 20. Really, you can wrap with any gauge that you can get in there. But I thought the two dimensions of wire, the two thicknesses, you know, I just thought that they made a really pretty ring. So when you're doing these rings, you have to get your shape first before you add beads and wrapping, and then it's a little challenging to manage the beads, but there's really no way to get this nice like bypass look and get it nice and smooth without that. My other advice is to start a little bit smaller than you think you will need, because especially with 18 gauge wire, it tends to bounce back from the size that you have placed it on. And the other thing is, with these, sizing is not so challenging because you can like pull like half a size without losing your shape. You can, you know, do some adjusting because it's a bypass ring. So if you're newer to making rings, or if you find them challenging, because for me, rings are the most challenging piece of jewelry to make, this takes some of that away because, you know, the sizing is not so critical. So I'm going to start up here on a size 7 and just get my shape in. Use your thumbs because that's usually your strongest finger. It is for me. And you know, see how I let it drop down? It's down at an 8.5 already, which is fine because I do like to wear a statement ring on my middle or pointer finger, and I need that little bit larger size. And as I said, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to adjust this size and fit. But see how much it bounces back. I started up here at a 7, and I've wrapped that wire around, and we're down here at almost a 9, 8.5. So that just, you know, that just tells you have to start on a smaller size than what you would like to end up with. And so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. This 18 gauge wire, it does really, really bounce back. Okay. That's going to be a little bit past an 8, which will be perfect for me. So we're going to use that again. So now I have my shape here, and so the size of your bead is also going to affect this. So I'm going to just open this out a little bit. Now I say this all the time. I have learned that when you're doing any kind of wire working, not to skip the step of warming the wire and to go slowly. The wire performs for you a lot more easily and does more what you want it to do when you move slowly and you don't try to, like, you know, whip it into position really fast. So you will see me like, you know, fussing, I guess, or just spending time where it looks like I'm not really doing anything, but in reality, I am. So that's my advice. If you can see, I'm keeping this round shape back here, but I'm warming this part where I need to make some turns in the wire. And I also want to get this straight so that it lays flat on top of my finger. My neighbor's dog is huge, and he barks at everything. There could be leaves falling from the tree in the yard, so I don't know if my microphone is picking that up, but it's distracting me. Okay, I'm going to just do a little test run here. My bead looks great on the wire. I'm going to probably want to pull this out a little bit. And like I say, these are so forgiving as far as your size. And so it looks like I pretty much have that perfect. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, choose one side. Doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to choose this side, and I'm going to trim right here, and I'm going to put my little loop in the wire for my charm, for my little leaf to dangle. So I'm just going to bring in my round nose pliers, and I'm going to get a hold, and I want my loop to be going this way. 18 gauge wire is tough on my hands for sure, but I can do it. Let me get my bent chain nose pliers. Close up that loop. Okay, and now I just want to take another measurement before I cut. So the cool thing about a ring like this is your round shape will act as a natural bead stopper, so that's really kind of cool. But I do want this to sit flat on my finger, so I'm just going to give myself another perspective, and looks like it's going to be pretty good. I'm probably going to open this out a tiny bit more, and I also think I want to smooth this a little bit more. Let me do it with my nylon jaw pliers. As I said, going slowly and making these little adjustments, not being too quick. For me, I get a good result. And also when I'm going to like do, you know, herringbone wrap, if I do this part and get it in there good, then my next steps are not so difficult. Okay. So now that I know about where that bead is going to sit on my ring, I'm going to come back with my cutters. And on this end, before I do, let me just show you. On this end, you can't even see it on my flower ring because it's not really a loop. It's really just bending the wire back and then closing it tightly. You can see it a little bit more on this ring. It's really just an end stopper, and it gives you a little space to kind of get your wire secure. So you don't need much, but you want to leave yourself enough that you can get it in there. That's a little bit too short because remembering it's 18 gauge wire, so I'm just going to trim that. And now this right here, I am just going to do that same thing that I did here. Just get a hold of that and bend it back. And like I say, it's not really a loop. I'm going to come in with my pliers and just kind of fold it in half. Okay. So I just have that folded in half. So now that that's done, I'm going to come in with my 24 gauge wire, and I'm going to go for 3 wraps on either side for the herringbone. So let me just pull my bracelet in. If you're, I know on a ring, I have just found that that's the ones that I've done, that's kind of the sweet spot. But when we did the herringbone wrap on memory wire, you could do as many as you wanted to, as you could see, as many as the side of your bead would accommodate, you know, until you ran out of space. because on the memory wire, you know, you could keep going. So, but on the rings, I'm going to go for 3. And here's where you can decide if you want to do both sides or if you want to just do your herringbone at the top of the ring and just have the wire laying against the bottom of the ring. I've kind of been doing this with my heart, like what felt secure and you know what I like the look of, and depending on the bead that you choose, that may suggest what would be best. So I'm going to start on this end, and I'm going to start just getting my 24 gauge wire around the 18 gauge wire, and you know, it's a little bit to get it going, but you can always go back in with your pliers and tighten. And I tend to do this a lot just because I don't have a lot of strength in my hands. I'll use like my nylon jaw pliers and my chain nose pliers and get it nice and tight on there. And before I go any further, I'm going to just tidy as I go. So tighten those coils. I also kind of like to chase the wire around. I can get rid of my little tail back here. And just make sure it's neat and tight. Okay, so I have just like played around so that I can get this wire right here, and you can do messy wraps here. We're going to wrap on top of it so it doesn't so much matter what it looks like, because we are going to wrap right on top of these beginning wraps. And so I'm just going to start by bringing my wire down the side of my bead and just rotate my project and bring it on top of the 18 gauge wire, and then it's got to go behind or through the ring and around to the top again. And you can pause as much as you need to make sure that your wire is where you want it. This one slipped off the top of this bead, and again, depending on the bead that you've chosen, you know, you may or may not have to do this, but as you can see, I just paused here. And also, I don't know if you can see the space there, so I don't want that, so I'm gonna zhuzh that wire down. And you know, don't get frustrated with the first one, because the first one is always the most difficult. There's nothing really securing it. So all I'm doing with my nylon jaw pliers is just making sure that this wire is really hugging the side of my bead. And your next couple of wraps, this will get much easier and more secure. And I'm going to just repeat that same thing. Let me get my thumb. I like to hold my thumb over my work, and I'm going to come down the side of my bead, rotate my work again, and do that same thing where I come on top. Just tidy this up before I wrap on top. And I'm going to come on top of what I've already wrapped and go behind and back around to the front. So it's already a little bit more secure, and for some reason I must have these are all handmade Murano glass beads, so I think I have one of these has like a little bit of an irregular corner, which is fine. It'll be beautiful. I just have to make that adjustment with my wire because it's not a perfect square. And I'm just going to continue. Now when you do your next one, and you can even like pull this part of the ring out of your way, because we're going to do more adjustments when we get finished with the herringbone. And I'm also going to zhuzh everything down. Okay, so now when you go down this side for herringbone, you lay this wire behind your first wrap, rotate your work, and back to the top of the 18 gauge wire, and then through the ring and back around. And I'm going to continue that way behind my other wrap, on top of everything, behind and back around to the top. And I'm gonna go for 3 wraps on each side. So I have 2 done, and I'm just gonna continue like that. This is in my way a little bit. Just get that wrap behind my existing wraps on top of my 18 gauge wire, underneath it or through the ring, and then back around to the top. Okay, so now I can see I have 3 on this side. I only have 2 on this side, so I definitely need to go again. Gonna once again tidy everything up, tighten that. Okay, behind my existing wraps, on top of my other wraps, and back around. Ooh, that's pretty. And then I'm just going to come in and neaten up all my wires down the side of the ring. Start to make adjustments for my finished little tail of wire. I'm going to do something a little creative on this one that I didn't do on my other ones. And you know, the nice thing is if I don't like it, I can always just cut it away and tuck the wire. But I'm going to try something, and I see I have a little zhuzhing to do right here. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this around one more time, and on the underside of my ring, I'm going to just lay that underneath and then wrap it around like this. Like I say, I'm trying something because I had the wire left over, and what I was thinking is that it would make this a little bit more secure, and I can also add a little bit of wire presence, like kind of a coil. Just coil down. I did that on whatever wire I had left. I just kept wrapping around the 18 gauge wire ring band, and it just looks nice. It just adds a little something. So since I had this tail of wire, I'm going to do that on this one as well. And on the back side, I'm gonna make like a little lightning bolt on the back, just like that, and that adds a little bit, just tightens my bead. But when you know, as I said, if you want to try something, if you're feeling creative, if you have a little bit of extra wire on a project, you know, try something, see what the natural path of the wire suggests. And you know, if you don't like it, you can always cut that bit away and just tuck your cut end. Okay, now I am just going to trim away, wrapped as far as I like, and I'm just going to kind of do that same thing where I'm chasing the finer gauge wire around the 18 gauge wire. Just push my coils tight. I just want to make sure there's nothing sharp, and I did kind of misshapen my ring a little bit doing the wrapping, but that's okay. That's why we have a mandrel. Come back and kind of get that wrapped around there. I feel like this ring is easier to do because you don't have to worry so much about your sizing, because once you have all of your other work done, then you can make a little adjustment to your sizing. And I'm pretty happy with that. I can see that my loop is nice and flat this way. And so what I did on my other ones, which you don't have to do, but and it's 18 gauge wire, so they're pretty sturdy. I make rings with this all the time. But I have this little rubber mallet, and it just work hardens. And also if I have put like any kinks or you know anything in my ring as I was working on it. It just smooths them out. And since it's a bypass ring, you know, it's not going to be perfectly round, but that just kind of helps, and it work hardens. So I am pretty happy with this one. It's just time to add the leaf. Did want to pull this out just a little bit more for me, and maybe bend this down just a little bit more, just so it sits flat on my finger. That is beautiful. This one's a little bit top heavy because of the Murano glass bead, but it's so pretty. I love that. Okay, let's add our leaf charm. So I just went into my stash. I have an entire organizing bin of leaves, and I found this little gold leaf, and I make the teeny tiniest little jump rings for projects like this. And what I use for that is a 6-step bail making plier. I use the tiniest step on this bail. I think this makes a 3mm jump ring, and I think this one makes a 4mm jump ring, but I can never quite remember the sizes of the steps on this plier. But that's what I use to make my own jump ring. I'm not going to show it today because I've shown it in so many of my videos, but that tiny little jump ring looks really nice for a piece like this. And then I'll show you another option, and I may just wear this one for a little bit and decide, but I'm going to go ahead and just attach my leaf, and then I'll show you. I put 1 jump ring on this ring, and I did 2 on this one, and I'm just going to see how my leaf hangs. So depending on what your leaf is and the orientation of the connection, you may need 1 or 2 jump rings. Oh my goodness, this is so cute. So I'll show you the difference. On this one, let's see how that sits on my finger. So it's sitting really beautifully. Let me take this one off. So on this one, I just have 1 jump ring, and on this one, I just did 1 jump ring. And on this one, I did 2. It just wasn't hanging exactly right. So let's see, I did this one a size 8, but it'll fit. So it looks like that. And you could also turn them around so that the leaf is like dangling a little bit toward the back of your hand. I don't know why I've been putting them on this way, but aren't they so cute and just so happy for fall? My goodness, I had so much fun with this ring project, and I really set out to make it as easy as possible because I know how challenging rings can be. They are challenging for me as well. So I will put some pictures at the end of the video so you can have a really nice close look. But I hope you guys will give this a try. It is a great first autumnal project for the year, and many more to come, but I just thought this was so fun. So I thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody is safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. Ciao, jewelry making friends.